Welcome to the 24K Life podcast. This is your host, Derick Gant, and I have something amazing for you today. I'm telling you, I got something amazing. My man, Mike, was raised by witches and warlocks. What? Witches and warlocks. I'm telling you, this is going to be off the chain. Now, I know that sounds crazy, but this is a business. He's going to get into the business of being better, personally and corporate. So without further ado, let me bring in the man. Let me tell you that this cat has over 10 books, 10 workbooks. He speaks all over the globe. My man is the man. Let me bring him on. Mike?
Hey, good to be here. I'm looking forward to talking with you, Derick. Good to see you.
I'm telling you, dude, when I read your thing and the first thing that popped out was my daddy was a drug dealer and my mama was a witch, I'm like, we got to talk to this dude. We have got, and he's smiling and he's not behind bars. We got to talk to this cat.
Yeah. I got coffee in hand. My dad was a drug smuggler, and then he went from there and he started a legal drug, and he started a coffee company when I was around 2 or 3 years old. So I grew up drinking coffee. I got my cup of coffee with you, like we're having a cup of coffee together here today. And that's part of the story, and we'll dive into a little bit. Cheers.
Yeah, no, man. So the real question, of course, is, are you drinking your dad's coffee now?
Well, he sold it for a great amount when I was a kid. Yeah, he sold for a great amount when I was a kid. And then he actually launched into, it's all part of the story, launched into law. So from illegal to legal.
Excellent. We love it. We love it. Now tell us about mom. What was up with that, or is that just part of making the story juicy?
Yeah, no, it's true. So my mom was child number 8 out of 9 kids, and she grew up in just a hippie era, was enamored by it, and got into witchcraft pretty young, and then dove in seances, astral projection, medicinal or spiritual cooking, all kinds of different things. She had her spell books, and she had all this anything you can imagine that was back then called New Age, right? Anything that was in that whole spectrum, but really was identified as a white witch. Okay. And so she would use her witchcraft to do good things in her words. And then she was running away from her boyfriend who wanted to kill her. Oh my God. And she was, everybody said he was crazy. And so she's running across country away from this guy, went to a party. My dad was the dealer for this party. Now, when I say dealer, yeah, he was a drug dealer. Yeah, he was a drug smuggler, but it's very different than what's in our mind nowadays when you think about it. And we are talking about the hippie era. Right. So this is late 70s at this point.
Yeah, everybody was doing
it. Yeah, right. I mean, he had gone to college and realized that he needed to pay his way through college, and what better way than working at a restaurant than getting some marijuana and selling it to all the other hippies. And he's quite the entrepreneur. He started several different businesses. And at this point, he realized that if he could learn Spanish, learn how to fly, he could go down to Colombia, he could go down to Mexico, cut out the middleman, and make a great amount of cash on a short period of time to live off it and do it again and again and again. And when he graduated college with a BA in literature, he realized that he was making way more money in drug smuggling than he could elsewhere. So he kept doing that. He was dealing drugs at this party, dealing some marijuana. My mom is absolutely gorgeous. My dad's super charismatic. They meet. And she had been running away, and she had lobbed this prayer to the universe that said, I need to sleep with a guy who sleeps with a gun under his pillow. Well, my dad, of course, slept with a gun under his pillow.
Wait a minute. Are you serious?
Yeah. And so when he goes, and then they go in the bed that night, he takes his gun out. She goes, what's that? He goes, oh, I always sleep with a gun under my pillow. And she's like, that's the man for me.
My dude,
the guy sleeps with a gun under my pillow. So then they went on wild adventures together, which I learned later on when I was about 15. My mom sat me down and told me the stories. By the way, plug for my dad, Timothy Grant Acker. He has a book called Pirates, Scoundrels, and Saints. And when I read his book, I was like, oh, that's just based on my dad's life. So it's wild, fantastic. I'm like, yeah, that's my dad right there. Excellent. So, and every character is my dad. But they met together, and so they're doing this wild, crazy hippie thing. Then my mom meets some people and becomes a Christian. And my dad's like, okay, good for you. You do your spiritual thing. I'll keep on doing my thing. And we were all in Hawaii. They'd had us by this point in time. So we're all in Hawaii. We're hanging out over Christmas holiday break. I was about around kindergarten, maybe right before. And we're there for a couple of months. We're hanging out with a hippie commune. And we're there, you know, they're all smoking pot. We're all dancing and doing what hippies do on the Love Family commune.
Okay.
And my dad has this transcendent spiritual experience where he hears the voice of God speak to him, and he gets rescued from this thing where eventually the IRS was going to catch up to him on all the stuff from smuggling days. And he gets this letter from the IRS, and he had said this prayer: God, if you're real, rescue me from the situation so I don't have to be absent for my kids. And he gets a letter to Hawaii saying, we're done with this pursuit and you're good to go. And so my dad's like, all right. And then he hears the voice of God as he's walking through the parking lot. He's like, I'm all in. Now he didn't know what Jesus meant. He didn't know what Jesus did. He didn't know, like most people have kind of a common thing, but he grew up in a family far away from that.
Right.
And so he had no idea. My mom went to Latin Catholic masses, so she didn't really know what she was doing either. So all of a sudden my parents are these like brand new converts to Christianity, not knowing anything about it. So they buy a happy birthday Jesus cake because it's holiday season, and they go smoke pot and sing happy birthday to Jesus with their 5 and 7-year-old on Kona, Hawaii.
Right.
But while they're there, not only was the hippie commune there, they found out that there was a place that's like kind of like a Bible teaching thing for young people called YWAM, Youth with a Mission. So they dive in and learn basically everything you need to know. They dive into the Bible. Okay. And they become the type of Christians that are not just like, hey, let's political, or let's rant against this, or let's, just go to church. They become like, let's change the world and help people.
Excellent.
So
I love
one of my earliest memory was going to Manila in Philippines and serving people at the dumps. When I was 10, we all moved to Mexico, and we served the poor and disenfranchised, who a lot of them, they had lost their dads due to the cartels in the 90s. And so we grew up doing that. So my parents became those type of people.
Is that where you learned Spanish?
That is where I learned Spanish.
Your dad teach it to you, or you learned it when you went to Mexico?
Yeah, I learned it when I went to Mexico. There's all kinds of crazy stories. So here's what I do mostly. I know we got my parents' story.
Oh, you're good. Go, man, you're good.
My main thing is my bread and butter, my passion, my obsession is I help people who are stuck in their influence and their leadership break through barriers by helping them in their communication and connection.
Okay.
So one of the ways that works is through my books, and one of the ways is through executive communication coaching, where I help professionals level up. And in that, people sometimes ask, why you? And my answer is, because I had to learn the hard way. Mm-hmm. So I didn't come out with a golden tongue. Right. I came out with a speech impediment. So at a young age, I had to overcome a speech impediment, and I was very driven to do so. Even as a kindergartner, my mom tells me that I would bring the flashcards, and it was my drive that got me to the other side of that. They provided the opportunity, but it was my drive. And then I went to Mexico, and I struggled to learn. My sister learned Spanish like that. My dad learned Spanish like that. My mom and I, we struggled. It took me years. I went into one point in time. Something pause right here. A little story, a little caveat, rabbit trail. We'll come back around. Okay. So I wanted to learn Spanish because I was not picking it up through classes. My friend had gone to a private school to learn Spanish. And so I thought, I'll do what he did, full Spanish immersion. I tell my dad, of course, super hippie, super whatever, still in his mind, kind of free and such, and just ultra charismatic, jump in there in the middle of anything. He knows a teacher who's in 5th grade. I was in 5th grade. Perfect. We'll bring my son to the school. So we go to the school, which happened to be in downtown inner city, Mazatlan, Mexico in 1990, when school theaters in the city were about 6 months behind the United States. Okay. And so it was not culturally linked to the United States like a lot of it is now. Okay. And in terms of modern pop culture. Mm-hmm. So he brings me down there, and he lets me stay in the courtyard, goes, talks to the principal. Of course, he speaks Spanish, and he can talk his way into anything. So he goes and talks for an hour or so, maybe half hour, and leaves me there. I am tall, blonde, white hair, blue eye, fair-skinned, all arms and all legs, super tall for a 5th grader, especially in that part of the town. Right. The whole entire school gathers around me. The entire school gathers around me. Most of them had never seen a white person in their life
That
in
is
person.
funny.
And so they're running and they're touching me and running away. Dude, I mean,
thought you were an angel or something.
oh, it was crazy. I mean, they'd seen him in those movies and stuff, but
Yeah.
it was, dubbed and such. And most of them had never seen, even in a tourist area or tourist city, not that part of the city was tourist.
Right.
So I am the odd person. I am the sight to be seen. I'm wearing baggy clothes inspired from Run DMC. That's who
My
I listen
Adidas.
to, man. Gosh. That's
all right. So I got a question for you, bro. How did your mom reconcile the light work, the white witch, Glenda the good witch, with Christianity and her understanding of God? How did that come together? Because obviously it was working. If she said, "Hey, universe, I want a guy with the gun under the pillow," it obviously works.
Yeah.
So
No, she gave it up. She gave up 100%. So I know I went through the story. We just got going today. So,
dude, that's what we do.
But so go back to that real quick. My mom was 100% white witch, 100% not a Christian. Then she has this really incredible encounter where she's talking to this family, and they said, "Oh, you like to meditate?" And she goes, "Oh yeah, I meditate on anything." And she always felt power when she meditated.
Okay.
And so she would meditate and she'd empty her mind and she would hear voices speak to her and such. And she would astral project and travel to astral planes, and she would do spells and such. And so she always felt power. Now, my mom's super petite woman. And of course, she had some really rough treatment at different times in the hands of people. And she'd been to crazy concerts, almost died. So she's just petite, looking for power, right?
Okay.
And so someone says, "You like to meditate? You should meditate on the blood of Jesus." And she's like, "I don't know what the blood of Jesus is. I don't know what that's about." I mean, she'd gone to Latin mass, but she didn't know anything about the core central truth about the blood of Jesus shed for the forgiveness of sins, and where death requires, or sin requires death, and right. Jesus died in our place. So she didn't get that, right?
Okay.
And so she goes into a trance and she meditates on the blood of Jesus. And all of a sudden she says a power filled her that scared her. And it was unlike anything she'd ever experienced. That everything else that she'd ever experienced was only an imitation of that power. Wow. All the other power she experienced and anything else she did was just trying to copy this Jesus power. And she said, "Whatever this Jesus is,
I'm in.
Whatever this blood is about, that's the real deal."
Right.
And so she gave up everything. My sister remembers her burning her spell books and all of her statues.
Really? Your sister older than you?
Yeah, she's 2 years older, and she got rid of all of that. But I mean, she was with a guy who, he was selling coffee at this point in time, but he had absolutely no desire, my dad, for any Christianity. He just thought it was another kind of interesting thing that she was doing. So she's just kind of floundering with no support, nobody to really talk to about this. All she knows is that this Jesus person is who she's now going to be part of, and she's not going to do this other stuff. So, she's still smoking pot, and she's like, happy for Jesus and stuff. And she's still doing some stuff, but she gave up anything else other than this Jesus. Right. And then they're in Hawaii a couple of months later. Then my dad dives in.
Dad had his experience.
And then they go to this school together where they learn everything. Wow. So that's what brought us down to Mexico. My parents are like, our lives have changed so dramatically so that we want others to have this.
Man, that's better than a movie, man. I hope somebody's like, you need to tell somebody about the movie rights for that, because that is better. That is better than any fiction anybody can make up. Okay, I'm telling you, telling you, got it all in there.
Yeah, it really it is a crazy story. My dad refuses to talk about a lot of it.
Oh, really?
And so he's still alive, and my mom passed away years ago, and he refuses to tell a lot of it. And he's like, "You know what? I just feel like talking about it, even." Because he's got some crazy stories that people go, "Wow, whoa, really?" So he feels like people are getting excited about the wrong thing. Gotcha. So that's what he's like, "You know what? I'm not going back there." Plus, it's not something he's proud of when he looks at his life now.
Right.
And he's like, that's not really where I'm going. But he got remarried to this great woman, and she's like, "You got to write your memoir." And of course, he wrote his book, and it's all about my dad, really. Okay. but it's not. Uh, but yeah, so he wants to turn that into a movie. I'm like, no, Dad, you got to turn your life into a movie.
Yeah, you got to turn your life into a movie, Dad, and you got to. Here's how you convince them, right? Because there is a movement. I've seen some of these movies where they're Christian movies,
Yeah.
But they're still kind of vanilla. You know, he can still guide people where he wants them to be, and have the ending be, you know, he found the blood of Jesus, but the rest of it would be amazing.
Well, I would tell you, I mean, still the adventures after that were quite crazy. So my parents
Even after that, okay,
because my parents dive all in, right? And they're the same people, so they're the same kind of crazy. Like, let's go for it. So we did this. Like, they did this 3-month intensive. My dad starts reading the Bible, and my mom and dad start reading the Bible every single day. Study it. They know it well. My dad still does. He sends me like Bible passages early in the morning, and he goes in. They decide that they're going to do this 3-month mission in Asia. So they're going to take us kids. So we go to China in 1985 to smuggle Bibles into communist China in 1985.
He's still a smuggler. He can't get it out of his blood.
Yeah. And he's like, and everybody's worried. And he's like, look, for years, I never got caught doing something that I'm not supposed to. So now I'm doing something that's good, that's going to help people.
Right.
And so for years, we did mission trips like that and other things. And we were in Mexico, man. We were in Mexico one time, right? So fast forward into Mexico, I learned Spanish. I go through this crazy situation, fear speaking, all kinds of stuff that I coach people on. And some of the adventures that we have were like, we're driving back to the United States because we had to renew our visas every 6 months. So we're driving back up to maybe Tucson or something. And we're in the middle of the night driving through our van, and we see a guy on the side of the road who's in his boxers. Now, most people are not going to pick him up, but my parents.
Oh my God! Well, he doesn't have any weapons in those boxers, so we're okay.
Yeah, well, they're thinking, but I mean, realistically, he could have also been one of those like employees where then everybody else is around. So absolutely. They pick up this guy in the middle of the night, put him in the van with the family, and drive him to safety. But I mean, he had just been hijacked on the side of the road. Right, that's what had happened. Some bandits had thrown a strip over there and jacked all his stuff. He had come back from the United States and was bringing TVs and stuff and money back to his family. And so some bandits threw some, a tire strip across the thing, like a nail strip, and robbed him and then left him out in the middle of nowhere. But we're on the same road at the same time. Now, that's just this tiny little story. There's plenty of other ones. I remember one time we were doing something, and some, like the federales pulled up with their big, huge AK-47s, and
And how old were you then?
And that story, I'm probably 14.
Oh my God!
We had these college students who were with us from the United States, but by then I was pretty acclimatized and acculturated, and so I'm not worried at all. They're pointing their AK-47 at us, and their German shepherds are sniffing at us. And the 18, 19-year-olds are freaking out, right? And I'm just like,
that's not good. Just another day. Another day, Acker household. Just another day.
Yeah, like the time that I'm walking one of the worst ghettos in the city, and I didn't know it was one of the worst ghettos. I'm walking, I'm fine, and find out later on that I was walking, and some prostitutes and pimps come up to us, and and they're just chatting with them. They're like, "Hey, how's it going?"
All right, so what's your? You're gonna tell us, like, we're gonna dive in more to what you're doing today.
Yeah.
This has been amazing. But what's your sister doing? Like, I want to know how she turned out with all this.
Yeah.
That's a great story, man. You got to tell us about all the characters.
Yeah. So I mean, my sister has her own story. Some bad things happened to her when she was young, and she had a difficulty as a child. Moved to Mexico. And she was the American princess, and most people had not seen an American girl, and they're all enamored by her. She got a great boyfriend, all that kind of stuff. Moved to the United States, wanted to get out of Mexico. Both of us had a time where we did that. She did it when she was a junior, got pregnant.
Oh, wow.
So she got pregnant at 17 years old as a junior, got married to the guy 2 weeks after she turned 18. He had graduated. They lived in my parents' house for a while. He commuted to college, worked his tail off, and also was just playing around a little bit because he's 18, right?
Right, yeah.
So, meanwhile, she's having a baby. She gets pregnant again, and so now she's 19 and has 2 kids, and he's finishing up school. Then she gets pregnant again. So she has 3 under 3 at one point, 3 under 4 at
Oh
one
my
point.
God.
Then starts learning real estate, starts picking up and kind of getting out and doing her own thing as the kids are now in elementary school. Gets pregnant again, same guy.
Okay.
Gets pregnant again by twins. She cries twice, and so the twins are in her belly, and my mom is watching the other ones, and she goes and gets induced, finds out that my mom was in a car accident with the 3 younger ones. My mom dies in the car accident. The youngest one is flown to a hospital that is in the same city, Seattle, about 6 blocks away from the hospital she's in. Her water has not broke yet, so my sister just pulls those kids back inside of her and puts her arm around her friend and walks off, even though she had an epidural.
Right.
So she's
Wait
walking
a minute.
out.
She had the epidural at this point?
She already had the epidural. Her legs are numb,
Oh.
but she's walking out because she's like, I'm doing this, the strength of a mom. But her water hadn't broke, so she was good. And that was September 5th. And they walk out on my birthday, September 8th. My niece comes out of ICU after basically from the brink of death. So good story, right? Eventually the kids are born. They're born well. We memorialize my mom and move on into another one. My sister gets pregnant again. And so she has number 6. Then finally my brother-in-law gets a little snip going on there.
Man, you need to talk to him a couple of years earlier than that.
Yeah. And my sister, being just the badass that she is, she had been working on her real estate, keeps on developing it. And now it does incredibly well in real estate and investments. They have like 5 homes. Wow. And they have some rental properties, and she's just amazing. She and I are running a marathon in October. So she's awesome, and we talk on a regular basis.
That is, man. We might as well just crush this interview right here. I mean, what? I mean, all of that overcoming, and I'm obviously incredibly sad about your mom, but man, all the blessings in the interim and during the process, you had to overcome. Your dad, your sister had to overcome a lot, and even your little niece. So, what an incredible story! What an incredible start! So, how did you had entrepreneurship in your genes? Did you ever go to work in corporate America, or did you just start off as an entrepreneur?
Yeah. So absolutely. My little motivational moment for all your audience here, Derick, too, is where you are is not where you have to stay. I usually end a podcast or interview with that, but let me just say it right here. I mean, it was with my parents from going from drug dealer and witch to being the type of person that they became. It's with my sister. It's with me. So where you are, with whether it's a speech impediment or being the outsider in Mexico, where you are is not where you have to stay. You can take the action steps you need to get to the other side. For me, I actually was going to go to law school and dropped out, and ended up moving back to the United States. In Mexico, you go straight to law school. Ended up moving back to the United States with no idea what I was going to do. And it's because my sister moved there too, and all of us. And so I'm starting over at 18. I have no idea what I'm doing. Moved up to the United States. And I ended up getting involved in church and ended getting very involved. I was not involved. I was not even considering myself a Christian at that point in time. Get involved and really got enamored with just changing people's lives and really improving people's lives and doing things. Finally seeing what my parents had seen. I'd kind of lost it for a while. And so that's where I ended up going. I became a pastor for 18 years. I was a pastor. And spoke to thousands of people, learned how to speak, made all kinds of speaking errors. Was a senior pastor when I was 26 years old. Did all kinds of stupid things, was a stupid young person many times in my life, overcame that and started coaching people. Switched over into corporate America. I just needed a break, needed something different. Went into consultative sales for a company that's been Fortune 500. And did that extremely well. I took a $800,000 territory, turned into $4 million in the first year.
Wow.
So did extremely well with that, helped people out there, was there, served people, helped people. Eventually the pandemic comes along. I've been coaching on the side. I'd written a book. It become a bestseller. It's got over 1,000 reviews on Amazon. And I went full time. So really? In terms of entrepreneurship, I mean, I started churches. I started, which is called expansion territory. So I was in consultative sales and expansion territory. So I started a new territory, and then I started a coaching business, and then we have some other stores as well.
So you talk a little bit about imposter syndrome in your materials. You know, and I'm bringing that up specifically because of the stories that you've been telling us,
Yeah.
and I can see how that could, not knowing anything about Christianity to jumping in full tilt to being a senior pastor to going into sales, never having been into sales before, expanding the territory to coaching on the side. I mean, so what would you share with our audience about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So probably the greatest period of imposter syndrome in my life came when I was 26 years old and become a senior pastor.
Mhm.
And here's what happens is ultimately you're questioning your value in relation to other people.
Mhm.
So I'm looking at this church. This church is about 85 people, maybe there's actually 75 people. And most of them had been teenagers, but there were about 30 people who were adults in the church.
Okay.
So super small church. And 30 adults, and then the rest of our teenagers, young adults that did know me. But I'm in this senior pastor role. Now I'm Pastor Mike. And the question is, what's my value?
Right.
And I'm looking out the room and I got doctor this, doctor that, PhD, master's, super rich, super educated, and just adults, real adults. I'm not
Right.
26. So what value do I have? So I went chasing value. And what we often do when we're imposter syndrome is we look at somebody and we go, how do I be like them? Which then actually just reinforces the imposter syndrome. So I talk
Right.
about it in Speak with No Fear, how I actually watched other preachers. Like I watched Andy Stanley, I watched Mark Driscoll, Rob Bell. These are, if you know pastors, big
Yeah,
pastors.
I do.
Joel Osteen, TD Jakes.
Yeah.
I'm like this white guy in a small little white town trying to speak like TD Jakes, one of the best, most powerful speakers. But I'm also speaking like Mark Driscoll, which is like in the Seattle area, or all these different people.
Right.
None of them were me. But
Exactly.
I didn't feel like I belonged. I didn't feel like I had enough value in and of myself
Mhm.
and to relate and teach the Bible that I took on another persona. And so imposter syndrome, if you're out there, it's usually where you look around you and you feel like in some way you don't belong, that others have greater value than you have. So you get promoted and you look at others and go, well, they know what they're doing. I don't know what I'm doing. Or you get into a new role and you're like, well, man, I don't even know how I got this job.
Right.
Or your company grows so fast, but you don't feel like you have grown in there. Or you launch out and you're a coach and you're like, I'm doing this thing, I'm doing this podcast, but who am I to do that? And you're questioning the value that you have to the people that you're talking to.
Right. But you're doing it anyway, hence being the imposter.
Right. And
Yeah.
so you're doing it, but you don't feel like it's really you.
Yeah.
If I went in and went to a doctor's office and put on a smock and started saying, hey, I'm Dr. Mike Acker.
Hey man, you go. I concur. I concur. Did you see that movie?
I concur.
I concur.
Yeah.
What do you think about his blood pressure? I concur.
Yeah. What was that? Catch Me If You Can?
Yeah, Catch Me If You Can with DiCaprio.
Yeah,
Leonardo DiCaprio. Yeah. I concur. Yeah.
Yeah. Then he's a pilot. Yeah, gosh, that's crazy.
That was great movie on imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man. So, you do a lot, you had a speech impediment, but now you've written tons of books about, I say tons because I've written one. Anything more than one is tons to me. You've written 10 or so. So, you talked about having a speech impediment, but your books are about speaking with confidence and, different things about speaking. So why do you believe that's so important? We all know communication is critical, but from your perspective as the expert, you're the author. What do you say about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking is a universal advantage. So if you're a teacher, it's obvious that speaking is going to help you. So teacher A and teacher B. Teacher A, he doesn't speak very well. Teacher B, she speaks fantastic. They both love kids. They both have the same education, but one speaks better. Who's going to be more effective? The one who speaks better.
Right.
Who's going to get looked at for opportunities for growth? The one who speaks better. So all things equal, the only variable being the speaker, the person who speaks better is going to get elevated. This helps you stand out. I mean, think about Barack Obama or Ronald Reagan,
right.
Two of the left and right, two of the most the presidents most well known for their speaking in the last 40 years.
Right.
What is it that they were known for? What is it that people talked about? A lot of times people would say, I don't like Ronald Reagan's policies, or I don't like Barack Obama's policies, but man, he's a good speaker.
Great speaker.
And it's really the thing that, I mean, if you go back and watch the DNC, Democrat National Convention speech of Barack Obama and watch his speech, that gave him the presidency, that speech. Now, whether you were vote for him and his policies or not, it was a speech that motivated people. It put him on a national level. So if it helps presidents, and if it helps a teacher, it helps anybody. I mean, you could be a truck driver. You could be a truck driver who is not known for their speaking, but you got one truck driver, he doesn't do very good in communicating with clients, doesn't do very good in communicating his need for promotion or for his needs for routes. And you got B, who's great. Well, at some point in time, they need someone else for leadership. Both of them have great track records. Both of them are great in all these other areas, but the one who speaks better is getting elevated.
Right.
And so again and again and again, I work with a lot of people who are mid to high level professionals who are stuck in their career because they can't get to the next one because of communication. And sometimes they don't even know. They're like, why can't I get that hired? Why can't I get that job? Why can't I get that promotion? I'm awesome at this. This is my resume. This is what I've done. I've done this. I've done this. I've done this. Why can't I do it? And I'm listening to them, watching them go, I know exactly why. like your communication is awful.
It sucks, bro. You can't talk to people.
And then they eventually realize it, and that's when they come to work with me.
So that was great lead in, bro, because that was the question, my next question. So what's the process? And I don't mean detail, but step by step, but just the big picture, that the process that you take that individual through. Is it a certain time period coaching program? I mean, what do you do to help them get to the point to where they're more confident and more eloquent with their speaking and communication?
My most recent book is called Speak with Confidence, and a huge publisher picked it up. Wiley published it. It's in schools and stuff, and now too. So if you want to check it out, I found it at Barnes & Noble in Manhattan. And in that book, it's my framework for confidence and communication, for power, for authenticity, for connection, for success. And it goes like this. You got to know your identity. Then you got to determine your message, what you're going to say, when you're going to say it, where you're going to say it, and then develop the skills. And that's your recipe. So when I'm working with somebody, I take them from the inside out. Heart, head, hands, or who you are, what you say, how you say it.
Right.
And really all three of those in part are huge, because who you are, which I don't know any other book who talks about this, that talks about communication. A lot of talking about what you say and how you say it. But I believe I'm the only one who talks about really who you are that says it.
Okay.
And it's really the inside of who you are. Think about that imposter syndrome. Why did I try to be like Rob Bell or Andy Stanley or TD Jakes? Because I didn't feel like who I was good enough.
Okay.
So I help people dive into who they are, and so they know their identity as a speaker. Sometimes you know who you are off stage, but you don't know who you are on stage. Okay. So the moment that you're in front of people, you kind of have this identity drift or this identity magnification of all your insecurities. Okay. So I help them work through that. Then I help them work on their mind, what they're saying, how they're organizing it. I help people with their TEDx talks and CEOs with their big, huge speeches.
Where were you before I did my TEDx talk, man?
Yeah, man. Where were you? I was here.
You were there. Where was I? That's a great point, man. That is a great point. Where was I? Well, man, I'll tell you what, this has been so dope. This has been so inspiring. I'm going to make sure that we put the link to your book, the one that you mentioned, in the content for people to grab, as well as, your website, advance.as.me/confidence. So they can get a hold of you and speak better. Because you've proven that those that speak better, you've proven it to me for sure. Those that speak better do better, and we want people to be better, feel better, live better. And I know you do. You've already said it. So, any last parting thoughts before we take off?
Yeah, let me go back to what I said earlier. Where you are is not where you have to be. So find out where you are. Don't just be, you know what, I can't do it. Don't fall into a victim mentality, but instead believe that you can change from where you are, and then take the steps that you need to get there.
Excellent, man. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I want you to stay backstage for a second and let me close this out. Okay, you heard it from the man. He laid it out for you. The story was incredible. It was incredible. And I encourage you to develop your own story and then learn how to communicate that. Learn how to add that value to your own life, your own plan, your own journey. And like everything else, we ask that you like and subscribe to the podcast, to the channel, to our YouTube. We know that we're going to continually bring new and exciting content, information, people, techniques, tools, and tips so that you can live your best life. I'm Derick Gant. Be your best, bring your best, leave nothing to chance.
Yeah, it's time to live your life. Derick Gant, show them how to take it to the highest height. Hey, this is more than financial advice. Show you how to take control, time to get your money right. Money management, I know that we all need financial independence. Yeah, it seems out of reach, but you can make it happen. Now it's time for some action, helping you with your finances. Yeah, we got a passion. Hey, ain't no limit. Now it's time to get it. You deserve to have a life how you wanna live it. Secrets to success. Now it's time to get it right. Yeah, I'm talking all about that 24K life. Let's go. This the vibe. For real, I'm trying to tell you. Tell me if you ready to take it to the next level. Derick Gant, talking fitness and investment. Change your mindset and show you how it's all connected. Ain't no need to hesitate or delay. Only way to live life is a 24K. Hey, Derick Gant, let them know. Let's go.